Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. Today I just wanted to share with you a quick presentation that I've made around why to invest in Birmingham. I see a lot of opportunity in Birmingham at the moment. It presents a very good opportunity and there's a fantastic story around why it's growing and how it's growing at the moment. And there's a lot of things to look forward to in Birmingham. I think a notable one being the Commonwealth Games, which will be taking place next year. We're seeing some very impressive infrastructure projects happening in Birmingham. We're seeing some strong population growth and employment growth with large corporates moving their headquarters to Birmingham as well. And of course, we're seeing some strong property price growth as well in the Birmingham region. So I guess it's ticking a lot of the boxes from an investment standpoint. And when we're looking at an investment, we're considering things such as your infrastructure projects. How is that population growth performing? What does the employment growth look like? Who's moving into the area? And then also monitoring those supply and demand levels and seeing if there is enough demand for the supply in the area as well. So we'll dig into it in this presentation. Hopefully it answers a couple of questions that may be on your mind at the moment. But if I missed something or you've got any other questions, please feel free to flick me a message, give me a call or send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to help where I can. But without further ado, we'll dive on into it. So why Birmingham? So to start off with, we've got the high-speed rail that's going to be going into Birmingham, and that's going to be connecting London straight up to Birmingham in under 50 minutes. We've got the 2022 Commonwealth Games that's going to reach an audience of about 1.5 billion people internationally, so massive international recognition there. There's billions and billions of pounds being pumped into infrastructure projects in Birmingham at the moment. A notable one, and we'll dig into it in a bit more later on in this presentation, but a notable one would be the Smithfields Regeneration Project. That is a massive master plan project that spans over 14 hectares throughout the city. We're seeing some strong capital appreciation predicted for the next 5 years, and JLL released a report about 12 months ago now, and they predicted about 19.5% capital appreciation over the next 5 years. So some very strong signs there. Then the Birmingham economy itself is now the UK's second largest economy, and we're seeing large major businesses and corporate businesses relocate their headquarters to Birmingham. Some notable, and we'll dive into it, of course, a bit later on, but we're seeing PwC, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, BT, just to name a few, relocating their headquarters to Birmingham. And we're also seeing some very strong population growth in Birmingham. And in the last decade, there's been about 300,000 people relocate to Birmingham itself. And also another notable number and figure that popped up before was the fact that about 18,000 people relocated from London to Birmingham during the pandemic over the last 12 months. So it really goes to show that the power Birmingham really possesses at the moment from a commutability standpoint, and people wanting to save on rent or buy something that's more affordable in comparison to your London prices, and are now shifting up to the north, and Birmingham serving a fantastic opportunity and option for people looking to escape the hustle and bustle of London. Now, let's dig into high-speed rail. So the high-speed rail, what is HS2? And HS2 is going to be a high-speed rail link that's going to connect London to Birmingham. The initial plan was to connect London up to Scotland. It's going to connect to the Midlands, then up to the north of England, and then up into Scotland. At this stage, the only part of the line that's being funded is the connection from London to Birmingham. So that's definitely going ahead now. There's been a couple of delays along the way, but it's lines are laid, stations are under construction, and that is definitely happening now. Now, what's that going to do? It's going to, if the full line does go ahead, and this is a best case scenario, what it's going to do is connect 8 of Britain's 10 largest cities, and it's going to connect over 30 million people. So some massive numbers there. Considering the UK consists of about 67 million people, it's going to connect about 50% of the population, or under 50% of the population, but nonetheless, that's a massive opportunity there. Now, when is HS2 going to be delivered? And given no more delays, on the basis there's no more delays, in touch with there aren't, they're set to deliver the project by 2026. So we've got about another 5 years of development or construction ahead of us. And it's going to slash travel times between London and Birmingham to under 50 minutes. At the moment, it takes about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to get from London to Birmingham. So this is really going to you could say boost its commutability aspect of Birmingham. So slashing those commuter times down, making it more accessible to people living in London or people living in Birmingham that want to work in London and make London wages, you could say, and really bolster its position as a commuting city. Now, they're predicting that it's going to welcome an estimated £1.5 billion to the Birmingham economy and 22,000 jobs to the region. So when we're looking at an investment opportunity, we're looking for a number of factors, and we're looking for population growth, we're looking for employment growth, we're looking for those infrastructure projects, and we're looking for looking at the supply and demand levels. And this alone has ticked, you'd say, 2 of those boxes, 3 of those boxes, if not more. So you're seeing in this alone a significant infrastructure project in HS2 alone. We're seeing the population growth off the back of the line going in. People now see it as a commuting city. It's accessible. It's going to take you 50 minutes to get into London. And that's also driving businesses to relocate their headquarters up to Birmingham, creating more jobs for the area itself. And if it's going to save a business money, they're more inclined to do it as well. And off the back of that as well, and something that really stood out to me in terms of business numbers, but there's been 448 West Midlands businesses which have been directly involved in HS2. So they're really supporting the local economy and trying to drive that local economy in the West Midlands area. As it stands, London has 300,000 people that commute to Birmingham annually. And the other way around, so Birmingham to London, there's 43,500 people that commute from Birmingham down to London daily. So some massive figures there. And you can only imagine how much it's going to mean to these people that want the commute to be easier. They want to stay in Birmingham. It's why they've moved up to Birmingham. They're looking to save some money and still work their corporate high-end jobs as well. And that's going to be possible with the HS2 rail link. Now, the second point or second thing to look forward to is the 2022 Commonwealth Games. So this is taking place the last week of July, beginning of August. They're predicting it's going to attract over 1 million spectators to the event. And as I touched on at the start, they believe it's going to be viewed by over 1.5 billion people around the world. So that's really, really going to bolster its position from an international recognition perspective. And I think that's going to reap massive reward for Birmingham from foreign investment as well. They're predicting that it's going to generate about 300 mil in revenue. And it's also set to increase employment and training opportunities for areas in construction, engineering, sports, and tourism, creating around or just over 4,500 jobs annually until 2022, so until the Games. And then following the Games, they're predicting it's going to create about 950 jobs a year after the event. So that's once again ticking our box in terms of employment into the area. Now, in terms of infrastructure for the Commonwealth Games, they are spending about £70 million on the redevelopment of Alexander Stadium, which is where they're going to host the track and field events for the Commonwealth Games. So there's your infrastructure project box ticked as well. Now, the last thing that they're also going to do is offer 12,500 apprenticeship schemes to people in the Birmingham region. So once again, that's more employment for the area, and another factor that we want to consider when we're looking at an investment opportunity. Now, this is one of the infrastructure projects that I'm really excited about, and I think it's going to reap probably the most reward for Birmingham itself. I think it's going to change the kind of, you could say, the perception that people have on Birmingham, and I think it's going to rejuvenate Birmingham itself. I think it's going to have a massive part to play. So what the Smithfields Master Plan project is a 17-hectare development site, as they're calling it, a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and it's going to provide long-term economic and social prosperity for the region. And the Birmingham City Council and Lendlease have signed a joint venture agreement, and the scheme itself is going to cost around £1.9 billion to develop. So that's going to pump both employment, population, infrastructure project into I guess three of the criteria we're looking for, but it's going to drive that employment, and it's going to drive that population for Birmingham itself. And I think it's really going to help put Birmingham on the map even more from an international perspective as well. And you're probably wondering, when is this going to be completed? When's this going to start? So the plan is to start construction at the end of middle to end of 2022 is when they're planning to start construction, and that's going to span over the next 15 years. And considering it's a 17 hectare site, you can understand why it's going to span over 15 years. And you're probably also wondering now, what is it going to deliver? It's going to deliver over 3,000 new homes. There's going to be over 300,000 square meters of retail, leisure, and also commercial office space as well. And they're predicting that it's going to create around 8,000 jobs for Birmingham as well, which will be directly involved with the Smithfields master plan project. And more than happy to send some more information over on this if you'd like, but some massive numbers, and it is really, I'm excited about the Smithfield master plan project. And in the next video we shoot for Birmingham, I'll spill a few more beans, you could say, and fill you in on a project that I'm really excited to start working on, which is within a stone's throw of the Smithfields redevelopment as well. So we'll move on to the next slide now. Okay, so Birmingham means business. So Birmingham's seen some massive businesses move into the region recently. HSBC are one, Deutsche Bank another, Lloyds Bank, PwC, Goldman Sachs, KPMG as well. There's some massive corporate businesses. You could say the largest financial businesses in the world at the moment. So what's that telling us? It's telling us that they can see the opportunity that Birmingham's going to present from a commuter standpoint. And it's also going to drive up the salaries in the area as well. Employment, these businesses pay extortionate salaries as well to a lot of their employees, and it's going to drive up that average salary for your area, what's that going to entail? That's going to entail property price increases as well off the back of these businesses moving to Birmingham. Now, Birmingham's named in the top 10 cities in the world, and it's one of the leading business hubs in Europe now, with a £90 billion regional economy. In terms of the number of businesses in Birmingham, now that increased by 13% over the last 4 years. So it's not just these major corporates that you're seeing relocate there, or these major financial businesses move up there, but you're seeing a mix of engineering businesses. You could also say property professionals, consulting businesses as well. And you're seeing a large variety of different businesses from different industries relocating up to Birmingham as well. In terms of population growth, and something I did touch on at the start, they've seen about 300,000 people relocate into Birmingham over the last decade. So that's some massive figures. In terms of predictions for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's hard to tell at the moment, and COVID's really, I guess, put a spanner in the works in terms of the numbers that were expected. From numbers and stats that I've read over the last few months, they're predicting about 45,000 people to move to Birmingham, and this is net migration as well, but people to move to Birmingham over the next 10 years. And then over the next 20 years, they're predicting about 90,000 people to relocate to Birmingham. As it stands in the greater Birmingham region, there's about 2.5 million people that live in greater Birmingham. And then in Birmingham city centre, it's about 1.1 million people that live in Birmingham itself. So the once upon a time small city of Birmingham is very much turning into an international hotspot for people looking to move to the UK, and also people looking to move within the UK as well. Birmingham Airport also now is an international airport. It's serving around 9 million passengers a year, and they're coming from over 140 destinations internationally. So it is really solidifying its international recognition as well from a global perspective. And just to run through a couple of, I guess, property related figures as well. Over the last 12 months, the Birmingham property market saw price increases of about 6.1%, just over 6.1%. So it's performed relatively well in comparison to the rest of the country as well. In fact, you could say it's one of the best performing cities in the UK. When you look at Liverpool, that performed 7.5% for the last 12 months. Manchester was about 6.7%. Newcastle was also around 6.5%. But nonetheless, Birmingham has performed very, very well over the last 12 months. And I think we'll continue to see that strong price growth. As we saw, JLL have predicted about 19.5% capital appreciation over the next 5 years. And they're also, according to a report that was released by Savills, rentals are set to increase as well by about 10% over the next 12 to 24 months in the Birmingham region. So it's essentially going from strength to strength at the moment. It's ticking a lot of the boxes from a investment standpoint. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more money thrown into the Birmingham region itself, and really solidifying its position from a global perspective. But like I've mentioned throughout this video, it's ticking a lot of our boxes. It's ticking the employment growth. It's taking the population growth. We're seeing the money put into the local area. The infrastructure projects are there. Smithfields alone, £1.9 billion infrastructure project. HS2 is about 1.5 to 2 billion pounds of infrastructure projects as well. So we are seeing the money put into the area. And in terms of the supply and demand levels, the UK has a massive housing shortage, so there's constant demand for these areas in the UK at the moment. There's just not enough supply. So the more developments that are happening in places like Birmingham, the better it is for an investor as it stands. So I hope this has answered a few of your questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to flick me a message, send me an email, give me a call. More than happy to have a chat with each and every one of you. But I hope this has answered some of your questions, and I look forward to hearing from you all very soon. And also I look forward to showing you some of these opportunities that we have in Birmingham at the moment. And I'm very, very excited about one in particular in Birmingham. So if you'd like to have a chat about that one, please feel free to flick me a message and we can run through that one in a bit more detail. But thank you very much, guys, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Have a fantastic week.